Films like Pig and The Lighthouse have an uncanny way of making the audience embrace its emotions. Throughout the movie, I kept thinking something bad was going to suddenly come out of nowhere, but somehow the harsh reality that was in my face the whole time was just as heavy. It can be hard to pack a lot of emotional beats into one story, without much breaks in between, and to be fair, this story wasn't able to strike a perfect balance, but some of these moments hit really hard. Modern takes on stories with dread is to have some central nexus event that ends up dragging the characters down unless he can reconcile. Now imagine that idea, but the entire story is about denying it, only to lead right back to the truth. What Pig really does is put you into the mindset of some guy who's grieving. It's not about him going John Wick on everyone trying to get his pig back, nor is it about him saving his business. It's about someone who lost their wife and is forced to confront it. What's interesting is how little dark elements this story ultimately has. For the most part, it grounds itself in our world. There aren't any purely evil characters. It's only business people getting consumed by their own greed. Real quick before I get into it, only a small percentage of you who watch my videos are subscribed to the channel, so if you end up liking the video, subscribe. It costs nothing, and you can always unsubscribe later on if you want. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. I wasn't completely pulled into this story, partly because it has a lot of artsy elements. But even in the slower moments, the actors were really put on display. Nicolas Cage embodies the sad demeanor of a once revered cook who lost everything. Alex Wolff adds a lot of depth to the son character, who lives his life trying to impress his dad after a tragic accident with his mom. The dad at first seemed like a purely evil character that just wanted to control everything, but really he was just a sad man who missed his wife. The film subverts things in a very strange way. Instead of the movie tropes most people would expect, the story sticks to what our life is like as much as possible. At times it almost felt like a documentary of Rob's life. Though the movie doesn't have that many breaks, there were a couple moments for breathers. They mostly took place in Amir's car as they traveled from place to place. Silence or even the car's radio with pretentious classical music stations playing all help bring you back closer to a baseline. When writing emotional stories, a very important part is how emotions fluctuate. If the entire story is all dread, then sad moments will start to hit less effectively. To invoke strong sad emotion, the relationship between neutral, sad, and happy has to have balance. To set up the final emotional beat of the story, Rob and Amir both go around the city of Portland gathering cooking supplies. Just like how an action movie may have a final fight, this movie has a final confrontation, making the antagonist, the dad, relive one of his best memories through Rob's cooking. Some of the best emotional stories have some way of shaking up the experience it's been showing you. This story has this kind of moment with the realization of the pig's fate. This film deals with a lot of philosophy and what the world of money does to people. In one scene, Amir and Rob talk about how so long as you're chasing your goal that you don't see the end of, you can still pretend. In some part of Rob, he thought he wouldn't get his pig back, but that chase kept his hopes alive. At the same time, he could never continue the chase for his wife, since he already knew the truth, and hid away from the world instead. What really sold me on the narrative was the little bits of world building added for Portland. The underground where people go to get beat up for cash, the food industry that destroys the dreams of others, smaller moments of intrigue in a focused story. Similar to movies like The Lighthouse, the focus here really is the acting. The script and directing were effective, but every scene hinges on how the actors convey their emotions. This story is made by the emotional connection. When writing a story in general, a good rule of thumb is to make sure the characters are conveying their emotions through actions, not just their dialogue. Sometimes more complicated emotions need words alongside them, but longing, sadness, and others can be shown without a word being said. Pig isn't something I'll watch a bunch of times. Most artsy films are that way for me, but when it comes to emotional storytelling, this story is indeed unique. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.